Well, today with us is Larry Kurtz. He is the Public Information Officer for the Orange County Fire Authority. And you have brought along today George Ewan. Did I pronounce that right? Nice to meet you. And you are the Orange County Fire Authority's Pre-Fire Management Division and Fire Defense. So as the topic today is, we are getting into, I want to say, more prevalent wildfire season, because it's almost year-round now, it seems. And we're going to talk about, first, there was just recently, I think last week, up at Coto de Caza.
Correct.
There was, I guess, 4.5, 5 acre fire.
It actually was 20 acres.
Oh, it grew to 20.
20
wow.
acres, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was maintained at that, but it got to 20. Tell me about that and
well,
how it happened.
11 o'clock in the morning, what occurred is Orange County Fire Authority received notification of a vegetation fire in the Coto de Caza area. When units got on scene, they discovered a small fire that was in small light grassy fuels, rapid rate of spread that was going up a slope. So Orange County Fire Authority engages what we call our wildland dispatch. We send 6 fire engines, we send helicopters, we send hand crews. We even had some fixed wing from CAL FIRE and a couple helicopters from the Orange County Sheriff's Department helping us out. What we do is we take the fire and we try and envelop the fire on 2 sides, on 2 flanks. We build line as we go, all up the side of a ramp, of the side of one flank of the fire and the other flank of the fire, and then hook the fire in the front. We put a lot of hardware, a lot of resources on this fire from the get-go to try and keep this thing as small as possible. Fortunately, we were able to keep it down to 20 acres. Now, our initial reports were much smaller, but it's only until after we actually walk the fire with a GPS and we get an exact total tallying of what the fire is. The good news here, although there were some homes threatened in the Coto de Caza area, we had resources on each one of those streets defending all those homes in case the fire made any runs at any of those homes. And
we can see on some of the photos that you folks sent to us that you can see staging here and at the end, obviously, of one street.
Right. This was the point of origin. This was on, I believe it was called Tortoiseshell Drive. Okay. Was the name of the street. And this is where the fire actually started. Down off the street, you can't see it in the picture, but what you have is a small reservoir. There was a company that was putting together some water pipe, repairing some water main pipe, and you have to weld these together. So after you weld the pipe together, you have to take some of the slag off the pipe with a wire brush. It's like a high-speed rotary brush. You've seen those things. What happened was an accident. Some of the slag got into the brush and started the fire. So it's completely accidental. So there's no intentional there. The good news, though, is that there were no people injured, civilians injured in the fire. We did have a few injuries to Orange County firefighters, but that was mostly due to the heat, nothing life-threatening.
All right, that's good. George, as pre-fire management, tell me, what is your position and what do you look for? As we get into the season, are you somebody who evaluates different areas and different trouble spots? How does that work? Okay.
My actual title is in the pre-fire management section is the Wildland Fire Defense Planner, or a Natural Resource Manager.
Okay.
And I am involved in fire in all 3 aspects: pre-fire, during the fire, and after the fires. Mainly in the pre-fires, I'm looking, just like you were indicating, I look at the areas where we're going to have potential problems. And in Southern California, it's not if it's going to burn, but when it burns. And we have a history of fires occurring all over. So I work with the large landowners, the jurisdictions that have the authority over the lands, to help them understand what the problem areas might be, where they will be, and if there's any measures we can take to help mitigate that threat. Either by some type of vegetation management, putting in fuel breaks, getting roads improved so we can get access into the backcountry or the open spaces a lot faster than what we have in the past. And just trying to help them out that way. Then when the fire starts, then I meet with the landowner. I'm their liaison between them and the fire department, talk their language, translate it into the fire department language so I can talk to operations, help people understand where we can go, where we need to go, why we can't go, try to help operations to understand a better way of getting the fire put out.
All right, do you folks have spotters? And what I mean by this is, during the high heat times and we get the Santa Ana winds, do you ever have fixed wing or helicopters even just kind of patrolling, just as looking to see if something's starting somewhere?
We have the Fire Watch system. It's
Okay.
a group of volunteers in the canyon area that actually patrol the canyon in their own vehicles, and what they're watching for is starts that can occur on these fires, and they can contact us quickly. As I said before, getting these fires when they're still small is key to preventing a fire from going to last 1 hour to a fire it could last a week.
Right.
We want to try to avoid that.
Yeah.
And so these people are fantastic. They park themselves up and down the Santiago Canyon Road and a lot of the backcountry areas, and they monitor a lot of these things.
And we're seeing a lot of some footage that you sent to us, just various wildfires that have occurred, right?
Correct. In the past, a lot of the fires that we have in Orange County and all up and down the state of California, it's usually something we don't see until around the middle of July, is where usually when these things start to happen. Now, because of the drought we've been having in the state of California, because of the El Nino that really wasn't as prevalent here in the Orange County area as we'd hoped it would have been. We're seeing things not just in the summer months, but we're seeing some things that are pushing closer and closer into the winter months. We've had some fires that are dead in the middle of winter that you would never expect them to happen.
Right.
So we really need to be on our game all year round. This used to be we call it a summertime sport, is the wildland fires, but we're becoming all season incident we have to deal with now.
And George, when you work with a lot of the different landowners and municipalities that have a lot of these areas that are kind of open, the Irvine Company comes to mind, or perhaps the Rancho Mission Viejo, those areas, do you also advise them, and this is an area that perhaps you guys need to put in a fire break, or you could do this better, and do they also, because it's their property, are they mandated to go in and do that, or is it just are they welcoming the advice and want to do this?
They're welcoming the advice. What I do to help them understand the problem is I take live fuel moisture readings. I do it once a month, and that gives us an idea of the dryness of the vegetation. As was said, the strange event that we had with the El Nino, we actually had rain, warm,
Yeah.
and we had 3 different growing seasons for the grass and the lighter fuels, which has added to our problem.
Yeah.
So when I meet with the landowners, I give them the advice, and no, not in all occasions are they mandated.
Okay.
There are some mandates for vegetation management around homes, around subdivisions and HOAs, but when you get into the larger open spaces, no, it's not a mandate. It's just hopefully they'll agree to it, and then we will help them implement, or we will go in and we will do the work for them.
Okay. Larry, we often hear about how you help other agencies, sort of the mutual aid, really up and down the state. We've seen the Orange County Fire Authority take their helicopters and go, 300-400 miles up the state somewhere. Just recently, we had, just a few days ago, the fire up in the Calabasas area, I guess. And that grew, and I think it's still I think it's almost out, isn't it?
Yeah, they have containment on the fire. They have containment on the fire, but they're still putting out a lot of the hot spots. When you put out a fire, when you hear about the percentage of containment of a fire, well, when they say it's 50% contained, it's 60% contained. What we're talking about is how much of the perimeter of the fire. You can basically draw a line around the fire, and how close are we to closing that door on the fire? I mean, we have it completely surrounded. Even after the fire is surrounded, we've got a lot of work to do.
Right.
We have to actually make sure that there's a fuel break between the edge of the fire and, so the fire doesn't get any further. We also have to, what we call mopping up. We actually take fire hoses and go 50 to 100 feet in, all the way around the perimeter of the fire. We have to look at every square inch of area inside that perimeter, because we can't afford to let one ember, we can't afford to let one spark get over that line, because if it does, the game is on again, and we start from ground zero again. As you said earlier, yes, we do a lot of mutual aid with our partner agencies within Orange County. We do a lot of mutual aid with our partners outside of Orange County, up and down the state, even outside of the state. And what that is, it's a mutual aid program that we offer our services to other agencies, CAL FIRE, Los Angeles, the forestry, and we can reinforce their resources on these fires. Conversely, if we have incidents within Orange County, history has shown, the freeway fire that occurred, or the Santiago fire that occurred a little bit before that. Those were instances where we actually call them and they say, okay, we'll send you equipment. And so that reinforces our numbers. Orange County Fire Authority is a large organization, but it takes a lot of manpower to put out these fires, not just the people on the front lines, but the people after. Now, one of George's jobs after the fire is out, we have to do a thing called management, riparian management. We have to sometimes, cover up a lot of the, damage that we do to the land after the fire. One of George's jobs is to make sure that that occurs, and that in the wintertime after the fire is out, you have to look at the possibility of slides and flooding, and that's one of his jobs. So it keeps him busy year round.
So you'll go in, even as Larry just said, later on and evaluate that this could now be a landslide situation.
Right. That's the third side of my job is after the fire's over to do the fire suppression repair. Rule of thumb is if the fire burns it, it's an act of nature. If we damage it to get to the fire, then we need to repair it. And at the same time, when we do the repair, we look at the fire lines. It's now down to bare soil. We want to prevent any type of erosion. We want to do anything we can to prevent sedimentation in downstream water reservoirs, anything that we can to help prevent any type of slides that will damage homes in the area. So yeah, like I said, my job is all three sides of it, pre, during, and after the fire.
I never considered that. I never realized that you went in, and this would be, like you said, you might build a fire break, as we saw some of the hand crews they were doing, or perhaps light a backfire. And now do you literally go in and seed it? Or put in trees, or what do you do?
No, if there's any type of restoration along that line, that's pretty much back on the property owner.
Okay.
It was the natural vegetation was there, the fire burned it, so it was kind of an act of nature.
Okay.
But again, when we put a bulldozer out and we put bulldozer lines in, then we'll take the bulldozer back out and we'll get rid of the berms that it's caused, the ditch, so it's not a ditch.
Right.
We'll pull everything back in, recontour the line, look at the hydraulics, so water is sheeting off the side of the hill and into the vegetation the areas that has vegetation. So we're not putting it into the areas. If it's bare ground, you got erosion. If it's back into where there is vegetation, you have roots and grasses and everything else. It's going to hold everything in place. So we look at trying to prevent that by recontouring the land, grading in the berms, not leaving any ditches. Another term we have is called a water bar, which is a small ditch across the fire line that will catch a lot of water and push it off to the side.
Okay.
So we do this type of work right after the fire, so we don't have to worry about it later on in the year.
Is it ever the case where you built with the bulldozer a fire break, and then you look at that after the fire and say, we want to maintain this because this is a good spot to have a break here?
In some instances, yes, we would like to, but again, realizing that the sensitivity of the habitat, we'll put it back. We'll leave it alone. We'll remember that scar, if you want to call it that scar is there, so if we ever have to use it again, we know to go there. It's been disturbed. We're not going to get into the cultural side and everything. But when we do use roads, we'll use the bulldozers to widen the roads for us. Then we'll try to maintain that width of the road.
Okay.
And this is a great example of, like I said, when the fire gets put out, people like me, I'm in suppression. We go home, we go back to the fire stations, go back to our day-to-day operations. He stays out there for weeks after the cameras have gone home, after people forget about the fire. He's still out there working. He's out there with his people, making sure that this stuff is happening, and then that land is going back to the current state it was before the fire ever occurred.
Yeah, as I said, I never, as often as you folks have been on before, I never realized that afterwards. I knew, you hear about the mop up, and that might take a week or so, but afterwards, you kind of think, okay, that's the end of it. I never realized
that suppression repair actually starts during the fire. I say starts in the fire. In your pictures, you can see the fire crews out there. They're putting in their line. I'm, in many cases, right there close to them or in a spot where I have a visual on them, and I'm seeing where they're putting in their hand line. I'm mapping out where the dozers have gone, and as things are starting to wind down, I'll take this hand crew back out and say, okay, guys, you know where you put your fire line in, you know what you have to do to fix it up. Let's go in and get it taken care of. Wow. So they're out there with me. The bulldozers are out there with me, and we just get the job done.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You know, people can go on your Twitter page, and they can go even to the main Orange County Fire Authority page and get a lot of good information. Of course, there's certain things people can do to help out the wildfire situations, as far as if they're near an area, or I would say this certainly is for people who live more in the outlying areas and maybe have an acre or two of land. But you can at least go there and get some great information, and then if something does occur, you can go online and follow some of the updates.
That's absolutely right, Ken. Our regular webpage, ocfa.org, anyone can go to that, and they can actually look up the requirements and recommendations for people who live what we call in wildland interface areas.
Right.
Now, wildland interface areas are people who have homes that are right up next to wildland areas. And it's not just the homes that are right there, you know, with the backyard that begins in the hill. It could be a couple houses away. The freeway fire in Yorba Linda was a classic example of houses that, you know, there are houses that burned there that weren't really near the wildland interface area, but embers from the other burning homes, you know, created that additional problem.
Right.
Some of the things that we talk about, doing setbacks for your vegetation. One of the biggest things that puts out fire is putting out a fire break. And what we ask people to do is if they can put a distance between their home and heavy fuels. So if the fuel comes up to your house, it runs out of bushes to burn.
Right.
You know, what's going to happen to the fire? It's going to go out. Also, their eaves. So we want you to block in your eaves. The eaves are just how the roof comes off the house, and it has that little under area that sometimes the birds decide to make a nest underneath there.
Yeah.
If you can block those in, what happens is the radiant heat from the fire hits the side of the house and then comes up, and then it creates an eddy current underneath the eaves. And that eddy current is superheated gases. And if there's enough of that rolling around up in there, what you got now is you're actually going to catch your roof on fire. So it's not necessarily, people think, oh, I can just cover my roof with clay tiles and nothing's going to happen to my house. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. You can do all these things to help defend your home against these fires to increase the chances of its survival.
Yeah, and of course, homes built nowadays, most of them have a lot of that built in, and other homes, you know, our home doesn't. It was, I mean, we got the clay tile roof, but it was built in the late 1980s, so the eaves are still there, and you know, that's just the way it is.
And the key that we want people to look at is as we come into these summer months, you know, take a look around your house and see what the things you can do. We also ask that people, you know, if you have important photos, if you have important documents, if you do have to leave your house, you know where to get those. We ask people, if you had 10 seconds to find everything in your house that you would need, if you had to evacuate your house, could you do it? Most people would say no. You know, that answer should be yes. And also, when the sheriffs come, if we do have to evacuate an area and they knock on your door, we say, you know, we are going to be evacuating this area. We're not kidding. We're not doing it. You know, they're not doing it for kicks. You know, we really do need you to leave the area. Have your car backed up and ready to go. Running around your house after we've told you there's a mandatory evacuation is not the time to go looking for all of your belongings.
All right, very good. Great to see you.
Good to see you too, sir.
And George, a pleasure to meet you.
Been a pleasure.
We learned a lot about, especially afterwards, what goes on. I think that's amazing. So I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for sending us the videos and the photos.
Thank you so much for having us on your show.
It's a pleasure, and we will see you probably again in about a month or so.
Thank you.
All right, great to see you, and we will be right back.
Good stuff.